Good morning to you, Graham.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, let's start, if we can, with the latest on Brexit. But I do want to talk about the anti-Semitism claims as well. Keir Starmer, the shadow Brexit secretary, is going to give a big speech today, and he's going to talk about giving Parliament more say. Owen Smith, though, just got sacked from the front bench for calling for the people to have more say in the EU referendum. And now there's also this huge big fuss over the Vote Leave campaign, of which you were, as I say, a board member, and how much money Vote Leave was spent, and whether they kept within the very strict legal rules about how much they could spend. Let's first talk about Vote Leave, if we may. Did Vote Leave do anything wrong?
Not that I'm aware of. The board was very careful to ensure that we stayed within the guidelines. I've read the campaign director's comments on the accusations that have been made, all of which seem to be without any substance whatsoever. Dominic Cummins, the campaign director, makes it absolutely clear that there was no connection with Cambridge Analytica whatsoever, and the link that we are accused of having simply wasn't there, because the contract with the intermediate company said that they could not pass information on to a third party.
So the contract that Vote Leave had was with Aggregate IQ, AIQ, and they spent large sums of money. But also the key issue is this money that was sent to other groups. £625,000 was sent to a group for younger voters called Believe, BELEAVE. Clever little pun there. But the argument seems to have been that because they were told, the claim is that because they were told what to do with the money, they were directed what to do with the money, that meant that, technically speaking, it was part of the Vote Leave spending, and therefore it did push Vote Leave over the spending limits.
Well, as I understand it, and I'm not a lawyer, and I've not looked at the legal judgment, the Electoral Commission have looked at this 3 times and found there to be nothing there. As I say, on the board of Vote Leave, we were very clear that we should stay within the law. I also understand that the Electoral Commission were asked their advice. They first of all denied that they'd given advice, and then the court has recognised that they did give advice, which Vote Leave followed.
There have been some claims on the internet and in the press that this is part of a sort of Ramona conspiracy to undermine the legitimacy of the EU referendum result. Others are pointing out that given that both sides were committed to a £7 million limit on spending, but the Remain side got to spend £9 million of taxpayers' money on those government leaflets delivered to every single household just before that £7 million limit came in, that actually, you know, that the evidence is on the side of Remain overspending rather than Leave overspending.
The government behaved outrageously, not just the leaflet that was sent round, but the way that the then Prime Minister David Cameron used Downing Street as part of, and the government as part of the Remain campaign. But I agree with you. What we're seeing now is that those people who lost the referendum, who never brought any of these issues up at the time, they're running a campaign to demoralise people and trying to overturn the democratic decision that the people made in 2016. I don't think they will be successful at that, but it's weirdly an attack on British democracy, and members of the Labour Party should know better than that.
Well, you say an attack on British democracy. Some people are saying it's a bit of an attack on British democracy for Owen Smith to have been sacked. He was Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary. He spoke out and said he wanted a second EU referendum. Now, not official Labour Party policy, but other senior Labour figures like Diane Abbott have said the same. It was well known that he had that view, that he had been a very, very strong Remain supporter, that he doesn't believe we should actually Brexit. Should he have been sacked?
Owen Smith stood for the leadership of the Labour Party. He was very clear on his views that he thought there should be a second referendum. In fact, that was really the only political difference between him and Jeremy Corbyn in that second election as the leader of the Labour Party. He lost. He lost very badly. I think Jeremy Corbyn was very generous putting him in the shadow cabinet after what was quite a vicious campaign. And I think, having been that generous, I'm not surprised that Jeremy Corbyn, when he has not kept a shadow cabinet collective responsibility. I'm not surprised that he's been asked to leave.
You don't have an issue with it. Let's bring on the issue of anti-Semitism, though. So Owen Smith asked to leave the front bench over his views, widely held views on Brexit. But we haven't seen quite the same staunch action on issues of anti-Semitism. There's going to be a demonstration outside Westminster today by the Board of Deputies and the Jewish Leadership Council. They're very angry about Jeremy Corbyn, they believe, failing to take action against anti-Semitism in his party. Now, last night he gave a speech in which he talked about how that there were pockets of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Many people fear those pockets rather surround Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, I represent one of the significant Jewish communities in the country, and I feel very strongly that the Labour Party, which has a very good record on anti-racism and on anti-Semitism, should take the strongest possible action against those people who are shown and proved to be racist or anti-Semitic. So I understand that there are hundreds of cases being considered by the appropriate committee of the NEC. So I think the Labour Party has to get rid of any taint that it's got of being in any sense racist or anti-Semitic.
They do, but are they going to do that? Jonathan Archer, she's the president of the Board of Deputies, has said that Jeremy Corbyn personifies the failure to challenge anti-Semitism, says that not a day passes without, in their words, fundamental anti-Semitic slanders being uttered in Labour spaces. Certainly when I see abuse and anti-Semitic tweets online, invariably, if you look at the bio of the person who's sending them, they will say they're a Corbynista. I mean, it's being done, whether he agrees with what they do or condones what they do, it's being done in his name.
Well, he can't help what's done in his name. He's attracted a lot of supporters, both.
But why do they think? Why do they think that they can do it in his name?
Well, I think some of the things that Jeremy has said in the past about being friends of Hamas and Hezbollah was a mistake, and he has tried to play that down. I think he should be more explicit about it.
Well, he doesn't think it was. No, but he doesn't think it was. In the same way, he doesn't think it was a mistake to hang out with the IRA. He doesn't think it was a mistake. He stands by all those views.
What he said, if I remember correctly, was that he was on a platform with people. He was welcoming them to discuss something, and therefore he referred to them as friends without accepting their full programmes. I think he needs to explain that. He's going to have a meeting with different representatives of the Jewish community in the near future. And I think in terms of the mural in East London, he needs to make an explicit and full apology about that. I don't know how he came to oppose the removal of that graffiti, whether he really understood what was on it or not. But either way, he needs to make a full apology, not just talking about the impact of any offence that is being caused.
But going back to that mural, and many people won't have seen it, yes, I do feel this might be a bit of a chattering class Westminster bubble story, but that image, the mural that was taken down, I have to say, look, as a general rule, I don't think we should take down art that just because someone finds it offensive. But that was at the end of my street. I go and paint over it straight away, I've got to be honest. The idea that anybody with half a brain could look at that image and not see it as something from 1930s Nazi Germany defies belief. So either Jeremy Corbyn doesn't really have a problem with anti-Semitic imagery and is quite happy to support it, or he's a bit thick. Which is it?
Well, I don't think those are the two choices I would be prepared to answer.
But it's one of those, isn't it? He's either too thick to understand the imagery, in which case, is he really fit to be Prime Minister? Or he is bright enough to understand the imagery and say he's happy with it, in which case, is he really fit to be Prime Minister?
I saw that mural for the first time in the Sunday Press yesterday, and it was simply appalling. I agree with you that it should have been painted over. I don't know whether Jeremy had seen it or whether he was just defending street art. If he saw it, then he made a fundamental mistake, and he should give a full apology for it. He should give a full apology.
But he hasn't.
For supporting it anyway, because it was a mistake.
And he hasn't.
It's not just the impact it's had on the Jewish community. That was wrong. Racist art like that should be removed as quickly as possible wherever it appears by any local authority area that it appears in.